Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So there's another behind the scenes teaser for Thor Ragnarok, so I'm going to play the clip. There's a whole bunch of images too, so I'm going to explain what's going on. A lot of it is just celebrating Hulk's end of filming on the movie, so here we go.
Just set it straight up, wrap it in, open it early, nice landing. Up, wrap it in.
It's a big spin,
Nice landing.
3 spins.
Yeah. I'll do one first. Okay?
Yeah.
Do the same, just open, nice, open, wrap it.
Didn't stick the landing, but I think I did the...
Yeah, but just a twist we've got to probably do in the air.
Oh, you don't want it on the mat?
No, air if you
Okay,
can.
it's pretty close though.
Similar.
That far away.
Yeah.
So starting with the footage first, you can see he's rehearsing for a much more acrobatic fight. So you'll see a much more acrobatic Thor. But the big news here is this picture, which makes it look like he's going to have his Uru metal arm from the Unworthy Thor comic that's getting ready to debut. So if you guys don't know what's going on with Unworthy Thor, there's a female version of Thor. During this original Sin storyline, Nick Fury comes up to Thor, whispers something to his ear that makes him unworthy. Like, he immediately drops Mjolnir and he can't pick it up. Fury even talks to Odin, makes Odin unworthy too, and we only know that it has something to do with Angela. Now that's just a comic book thing. Angela doesn't exist in the Marvel movies. I know everybody wants to see Angela because she's such a badass, but you kind of have to work up to that. I'll explain that in a second. But they were posting a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff last night because it was Mark Ruffalo, Hulk's last day on the set. Now that just means his last day of principal photography. They still have post-production, they'll do reshoots later, so Hulk will come back to set much later. But there's like a whole bunch of the movie that they have to shoot that Hulk is not going to be in, so they don't need him on set anymore. So it sounds like, based on the Comic-Con teaser that they showed off, we'll see Gladiator Hulk versus Gladiator Thor, while Loki is like cheering, eating his popcorn with the Grand Master, watching it all go down, until they break their way out of the arena and Thor starts to retake Asgard. So I know you're asking now, does that mean that Hulk is only in like a little bit of the movie, because it sounded like he was going to be in the entire movie? So based on the pitch, I'm guessing he's in more of the movie than, say, like Spider-Man was in Civil War. Like, Spider-Man was in about 20 minutes of Civil War, and if you assume the movie's going to be a little over 2 hours long, so we'll say for now the Hulk is in about a quarter of the movie. Remains to be seen because they've only been shooting for a couple weeks now. This is really more noteworthy for Thor's look. Like, we're basically saying goodbye to shampoo model Thor and saying hello to Gladiator Gorilla Thor. So if I didn't mention it in my Comic-Con teaser video, Thor was done up in like Braveheart face paint, so it looks like Loki lays him low. Like, that's how he ends up in the arena. Maybe he becomes unworthy, they take his armor from him, so he gets pared down to bare essentials like the actual Ridley Scott Gladiator film. Like, he looks more like Russell Crowe in that film. Very simple gladiator garb, like he's not wearing elaborate armor, so it's more of a down and dirty Thor that has to claw his way back up to the top of Asgard. He doesn't have all of his toys to protect him, so like there's the possibility that he could die. If Thor is going to die, it is going to be someone else from the Thor comics to do it, because not only do Asgardians have a much more resilient physiology, like they're just naturally stronger. Loki soaked a blast from the destroyer gun with his armor on, so think about how strong they are compared to normal humans, even without their armor on. So the real WTF though, like obviously it's clear that they're going to give Thor a new look, which I think is good. Like, it's good to mix things up eventually. But the real WTF is will they do Unworthy Thor, chop his arm off, and give him an Uru metal arm? So you've all probably seen Unworthy Thor since female Thor debuted, since original, like all the comics that have happened since then. He has the Uru metal arm. It's the same metal that Mjolnir, his hammer, is made of. So he has a super strong arm, he's super badass, but immediately after realizing that he can't pick his hammer up in the comics, he goes to the armory in Asgard and picks up a magical axe, which is also Uru metal. But the whole idea is that it's not as special as Mjolnir. Like, it's not as powerful. It's still really badass, but it is not nearly as powerful as his hammer. So just to explain that, I know there's a lot of questions about female Thor in the comics, so, somewhat tangential to that. Female Thor is actually, spoiler warning for female Thor if you guys haven't read that comic. So here we go. So female Thor is actually Jane Foster, who we find out is suffering from breast cancer. She's slowly dying and refuses Asgardian treatment. But you kind of get the idea that because she is so fearless, she becomes worthy of Mjolnir, so she's able to pick it up. So that's how she becomes female Thor. But, the funny twist is that Odin is super pissed off about this. He's like, this is my son's hammer, you're an outsider. Like, he's really pissed that a human can pick up Mjolnir, but Thor can't. But because of what Nick Fury whispered to Thor and Odin, they're both unworthy. So everyone's just like, what the hell did he whisper to them to make them so unworthy? In the comic book writer, Jason Aaron, who's responsible for all of it, just said that he will reveal it eventually. But I'll be interested to see if he has another unworthy type moment during this movie. But one of the reasons in movies why they don't chop people's arms off more often is because a lot of times, like in order to make his Uru metal arm from the comics look really awesome on screen, they'd have to use a lot of CG. That gets really expensive if Thor's going to be in a lot of scenes. So what might be happening here is if like he has something on his arm here, it's just armor that he wears while he's in the Gladiator arena, and that's only temporary. It's not like a complete replacement for his arm. Like, we know that Hulk wears his armor from Planet Hulk in Thor Ragnarok. They showed that off at Comic-Con. So it makes sense that Thor would be wearing some kind of armor if he's fighting in the Gladiator arena too. So that's probably what this is. But let me know in the comments, do you think that they are going full Unworthy Thor and they're going to give him an Uru metal arm in this movie? But for those of you asking about this picture here, this is the comic book that's coming up. Even if you don't read Thor comics, this hammer here is actually the Ultimate Thor's hammer that's left after the big Secret Wars event that happened last summer. So if you didn't read Secret Wars, basically like everybody in the Marvel Universe was crammed onto a single planet. There were a bunch of Thors from a bunch of different universes, so this hammer is just left over from that the main universe Thor is now going to try and pick up. It's like the main version of Thor in the comics who is unworthy. So one of the advantages, of course, of the multiverse is that there's an infinite number of Mjolnirs, so if he becomes worthy again, that means that he and Jane Foster, female Thor, can both wield a Mjolnir and be a fully powered version of Thor. So you have like two Thors in the Marvel Universe. But just to tie all of this to Avengers Infinity War in the movies and the next, like the fourth Avengers film, which is currently untitled, I think what they're doing is just getting people used to the idea of different Avengers so that when they get to the fourth Avengers movie, they can do all new, all different Avengers in the movies. Like you have a bunch of different Avengers joining the team, a bunch of classic Avengers getting cycled out. So don't be surprised if you see like Spider-Man officially join the Avengers and like be in all the Avengers in a really big way, along with other characters like Captain Marvel. But that's like a long ways off. We're talking like way after Infinity War. But that's another good question. Let me know in the comments, how different do you think the Avengers team is going to be in the fourth Avengers film? Like, do you think that they're going to cycle a bunch of people in and find creative ways for some of the older Avengers to not show up quite as much? But just because I forgot to do it in my earlier Marvel videos this week, there is a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. There'll be a bunch more Marvel and DC this week. I just posted my Suicide Squad review, so I'll put a link in the description for that. So lots of comic book stuff happening this week. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for my non-spoilery Suicide Squad review, and you can click here for all my Marvel trailers from Comic-Con. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.